This is Mario Nafal's 69X Minutes. I'm Erin Molan. It's great to have your company as always. You know the deal by now. The biggest headlines, real investigations, and the kind of stories straight from the ex-trenches you won't find anywhere else. World leaders, whistleblowers, everyday X's. We've got it all. It's real news, real fast. Let's get into it. Tonight on 69X Minutes, free trade was the deal. But while America opened its markets, others built quiet barriers. Economist Daniel Lacalle says the game was never fair. And now the US, well, they're done playing nice. At NASA's Kennedy Space Center, a SpaceX rocket lifts off. No crew on board, just 6,700 pounds of supplies and science headed to orbit. It's part of our new series, On the Ground, where we take you inside the missions that are shaping tomorrow. In Spain, there's a different kind of launch. Santiago Abascal is leading a nationalist surge, and his message is landing. Borders, well, they matter. So does identity. And Brussels, not so much. Across the battlefield of diplomacy, Boris Johnson says the West is bargaining with a butcher. Sanctions are slipping. Lines are blurring. And there's one name he thinks might actually hold the line: Donald Trump. Back home, Hollywood superstar and the original Superman, Cain, he's not mincing his words. From failing cities to cultural breakdowns, he's had enough. And he's calling it out wherever it shows up. And then there's Bryan Johnson. His war isn't political, it's biological. Every organ, every metric, every moment measured to fight the one thing we all face: the end. Plus, in my take, the Democrats are on an American tour to fight the oligarchy. Only problem is, they've hired a private jet from one of the oligarchs to get there. You could not make this stuff up. I'm Erin Molan, and this is Mario Nafal's 69X Minutes. This is a little preview of On the Ground, our brand new show bringing you face to face with the stories shaping our world and, more importantly, what's beyond it. In this sneak peek, David and Eric are at NASA's Kennedy Space Center on launch day. A SpaceX rocket roars to life, carrying 6,700 pounds of supplies to 7 astronauts aboard the International Space Station. No crew on board, but a full load of food, gear, and science, fueling over 200 experiments to help us survive deep space. This isn't science fiction. It's real, it's now, and it's just the beginning.
Every story has a beginning for us. It begins right here in the middle of a pitch black starlit night just a few yards from a launch pad. Attached to it, a smoldering rocket awaiting its final countdown. All eyes lifted skyward as fire and thunder carry a crew towards the stars. This is the debut of On the Ground, a series built on presence, on proximity, on bearing witness to moments that shape our world. From war zones and natural disasters to scientific breakthroughs and spaceflight, we go where the stakes are highest and the access is rare. And today we start with a launch, not just of a rocket to the International Space Station, but of our mission to bring you closer to the human pulse behind the headline. We weren't watching from afar. We were there, close enough to feel the heat ripple across the ground, to hear the silence before ignition, to feel the intense vibration aggressively shaking our bodies to the core as the NASA and SpaceX rocket soared into the night sky. We were among those who live for these moments. This is not just a story about space. It's about what it takes to leave the Earth behind and the people who make it possible. On the Ground, our launch episode begins now. And then the afterburn when the booster separated, that was fantastic. What happened there?
Yeah, that's what is called around here a Falcon Nebula. And that's basically at nighttime when you have that glow from the second stage, when it fires its engines just after the first stage has separated, that exhaust plume, it really glows, it really radiates.
We're at NASA. This is absolutely amazing. Waiting for a launch.
Yeah, we got 55 minutes to go. We're right in the shadow, I guess, of the vehicle assembly building. The rocket goes from here all the way over there. That's where it's going to launch from, down there. And this is your first launch, right? So this is going to be exciting.
First one in Cape Canaveral.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the booster to come back down, land itself. And that really is where all the cost savings are happening.
I agree.
Because they're not losing the boosters anymore. And that's the collaboration between NASA and SpaceX.
And usually it goes way out in the ocean and you don't get to see it, but it's going to come back where it took off from. And it's a really cool thing to see. It's loud. We'll hear the sonic boom.
The sonic boom.
Yeah.
You're going to see the sonic boom. We're going to bring it to you in just a couple minutes. All right, we're here with Stephen Seislov, who's with NASA. And Stephen, we notice 19 minutes or so left to go before the rocket goes off. Really looking forward to sonic booms, both once, twice.
There's a sonic boom when it comes back. The booster is going to go up and then coming down very, very fast, of course. So you will hear actually a twin sonic boom, and that's both from the base and from the top of the rocket.
So the capsule orbits and hooks into the space station. One orbit, two orbits, how soon does it link?
Actually, the capsule is going to take a few orbits before it docks. It's going to dock tomorrow.
A lot of folks around here who are part of the experimentation portion of this launch.
Yes, sir.
How many experiments are you going to be doing?
Well, each crew on the space station does about 200 experiments. Now, that does not mean that there's 200 aboard that vehicle. There's basically a number of them up there. They have to do with anything from brain activity to nervous system adaptations to weightlessness. All this is aimed at really learning about what astronauts need when they go off into deep space, when they go for long duration missions to the moon and off to Mars. The International Space Station has a mixed nationality crew, always has. There's going to be a Japanese commander. In fact, Takuya Onishi has taken on the role of commander within the last couple of days when the Soyuz, the Russian spacecraft, as a matter of fact, just came back yesterday or early this morning with an American astronaut, Don Pettit, and 2 Russian cosmonauts aboard.
Great. We'll get a bunch of tape and we'll show you how it happens, and Steve and I will speak afterwards for a few minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. We have liftoff. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. What you're seeing now is raw power, a surge of light and fire ripping into the sky. Thanks for being here with us for our first episode. We started on the ground to go where most can't and bring you with us. This is just the beginning. In the weeks ahead, we'll be on the front lines of some of the most urgent and unseen stories around the world. We'll walk the burned edges of the Gaza envelope, where survivors of October 7th are still trying to make sense of what was lost and what happened. We will stand with the families in eastern Congo, caught between rebel lines and an international and ominous silence. We follow special forces through rescue operations and get an inside look at their training regime that prepares them for moments where every second may mean the difference between life and literal death. Some journeys take us into war, others into grief, and some into quiet moments of resilience and strength that rarely make the headlines. Sometimes we look up to the launch pads, to the edge of Earth, to those reaching farther than most of us ever will. This show isn't about spectacle. It's about going there, seeing it for ourselves, and bringing you as close to it as humanly possible. If it matters, we'll be there, on the ground. See you next time.
Bryan Johnson isn't just hacking biology, he's rewriting it, with longevity medical science as his blueprint. From AI-driven health loops to real-time brain scans, he's tracking every heartbeat, blood draw, and biomarker to fight the one thing no one can escape: entropy. But behind the metrics, a deeper revelation about faith, identity, and the illusion of free will. Don't die, not someday, right now. In this exclusive sit-down, he breaks down the tech, the philosophy, and the mission. Here is your first look.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, hey, human species, we are in this very special moment where we are like evolving into a brand new species, a new new things are emerging with AI. Wouldn't it be cool if we stopped killing ourselves and stopped killing each other and just said, this is like a spectacular moment, let's just say yes to it and not be stupid and cut things off short. That's all I'm trying to say. And so I'm not trying to save my life. I'm trying to get the humanity to embrace the idea that existence is this insanely precious gift and we shouldn't squander it. Right now, we're foolish and we're short-sighted. We're absolutely idiotic. The single most important thing happening in this part of the galaxy is on this Earth, we're giving birth to superintelligence. It's going to transform our existence in ways we can't even comprehend. It is the biggest thing happening.
You're going to the root of all of it,
Yeah.
which is, of course, people don't want to die.
Yes, exactly.
But you are challenging the role of external control, and you're saying the locus of control is all internal, that we get to choose whether we die or not. And a lot of people don't have that choice.
Exactly. If you just take it from an absolute pure biology and physics perspective,
I get it.
What things cause death, then you can say, great, now we have baseline stuff. Now let's rebuild human custom around things that promote life.
Got it.
Longevity does not add up to your personal life. Being able to go out, being able to enjoy nightlife, being able to, I like adrenaline. I like to do things to get my adrenaline going. And I know you face loneliness, especially when your son left. Do you have those struggles? We have to choose one or the other?
Definitely, yes. And I guess what I've experienced in a transition is that I now know from experience those things cause me sadness, like eating a donut or pizza or staying up late or drinking, or they just wreck me. And so I no longer have a positive association. They make me feel sad. I was in a bad relationship. I had bad health. I was in a religion I wanted to leave. I wasn't getting good sleep. My diet was awful. I was obese, right? Like all those factors were off and it just created this crushing environment.
Fair.
People come at this so hard. They assume they've got it cornered and I'm in the wrong. So I have tremendously good health. All my biomarkers show it. But yet I'm on the stand being accused by the prosecutor of being guilty of not being happy. With AI, it's inviting us to rethink every element of our existence, like including this idea that we're a free will species making independent choices. Like it is rocking our identity to the absolute core. But the thing is, nobody's talking about this. People are talking about like, do we have jobs? Is AI gonna go rogue? But this bigger thing is going on, which is our identities are at risk. We no longer understand who we are as a species or individually. The reality is, AI is a pattern matching machine. It is becoming very good at doing these patterns. And over time, it's gonna become as good or better at being you than you are, which then raises an open question for you. What do we do then? And so I'm just trying to raise the question without diagnosing it. And I'm just saying, this is something we should.
You can't diagnose. You can't raise the question without giving us your thoughts.
So I'm saying that in this moment, we don't know what's going to happen. Like we can't predict it. Therefore, the only logical thing we can all agree upon is none of us want to die right now. So what this means is it doesn't make sense anymore to kill each other or go to war. It doesn't make sense anymore to inhale death or eat death. What I'm saying is it makes sense for a new philosophy of existence to emerge, that don't die is the next major ideology to emerge as a species, where existence is the highest virtue. That is the new framework for how we conduct our lives.
Where do you see the world in, let's say, 20 years, 30, 40 years time? Where do you see civilization if we do get to a level through AI that we can extend our life another 100 years and potentially forever?
To me, the most likely scenario is that we haven't discovered all things, that there's more things to be discovered, and that over a 20 to 30 year time frame, we're going to discover new things that are going to change our models of the world so drastically that we are basically Homo erectus in this moment, that it's a possibility that we are that primitive, and that the only intelligent thing we can say right now is we have no idea. But the risk, the blind spot we have is we have this idea that we're masters of the universe, having figured out, we've discovered particles and we've created particle colliders and we've gone to the moon. And so we imagine we're at this apex of intelligence, and therefore it gives us the ability to model. And I'm saying that on the sphere of knowing and unknowing, we may have discovered a fraction of what can be known. And so to me, it comes back to this invitation to express extreme humility that we may not know what's coming. And therefore, and go back to, so therefore, the only thing I know is I just don't want to die right now.
Hi, I'm Mary Delgado, here for 69 seconds on 69X Minutes. This week, the financial world is buzzing with real estate, gold, and Bitcoin driving opportunities for the middle class. But I want to focus on one topic, gold. Over the past 12 months, gold has been on a tear, surging over 50% and outpacing the S&P 500. Starting around $2,300 in April 2024, it climbed steadily, hitting $2,786 by October and smashing through $3,000 in March 2025. Driven by a weakening U.S. dollar, escalating U.S.-China trade tensions, and safe haven demand amid geopolitical uncertainty, gold's momentum never waned. Central bank buying, especially from China, and investor flight from volatile equities fueled the rally. And on April 22, 2025, gold broke a new record, soaring past $3,500 per ounce for the first time ever, cementing its status as a red-hot asset in a turbulent world. While some see gold as a bedrock in turbulent times, others caution it could soften if trade tensions ease. It's a fascinating moment for this timeless asset. What do you think? I'm Mary Delgado, and I'm grateful for 69 seconds of your time.
Are tariffs a tool or a trap? Economist Daniel Lacalle thinks we've misunderstood the entire game. For decades, the US opened its markets, while rivals like China and the EU quietly stacked barriers sky high. No headlines, no panic, just tariffs by another name. Now the US is fighting back with tariffs of its own, not to isolate, but to level the playing field. Lacalle warns protectionism is risky, but ignoring unfair trade, well, that's worse. This isn't just about economics. It's about sovereignty, security, and survival in a rigged global system. The world has changed. Maybe US trade policy should too.
Tariffs themselves are not a good policy. Tariffs as a protectionist measure are not a good policy. What we have seen in the past is that the best years of economic growth, economic development, trade, and reduction of poverty have come with the elimination of trade barriers and tariffs. However, in the past 15 to 20 years, we have seen a very dangerous trend, which has been that between 2000 to 2024, in those 24 years, what we have seen is a massive increase in non-tariff barriers, and at the same time, governments using all types of creative words to disguise what actually work as tariffs and trade barriers against the United States. So tariffs always are a dangerous and very, very negative tool when used for protectionist measures. And we need to be exceedingly careful about the implications of the implementation of tariffs. But we also must understand that the situation of the United States has changed so dramatically in the past 24 years that the United States does not have the luxury that China or the European Union have in terms of creating very new terms for trade barriers, no? And therefore tariffs are used to try to balance the situation and level the playing field. It's a different approach. We need to understand the narrative, no? Think about how many times have you read or heard that the global economy is going to collapse because of Xi Jinping's tariffs and Xi Jinping's trade barriers? Never. Think about how many times you have read or heard that the global economy is going to collapse because of the European Union's growing non-tariff barriers and growing tariff trade limitations. Never. So what we're living right now is an environment in which people are basically responding to the headlines in a way that is very, very aggressive. And yes, obviously, the Trump administration is looking at China, and China has limitations on US companies. Some of them are banned. You cannot use your technology in China when you travel to that country. Enormous investor insecurity, property rights issues that have exceeded costs of hundreds of billions of dollars. All these things. And nobody seems to be worried about any of these things, or seems to have been worried about any of these things. So the only thing that the Trump administration can do to level the playing field is to put tariffs to China. The surplus of China with the United States is so enormous that it's obvious that the negative impact is going to be fundamentally on the Chinese economy. But ultimately, it is a negotiation strategy by which, if China actually starts to lift the enormous, absolutely undeniable barriers to trade that it has, then we can solve the situation rapidly. However, if we look at the world, the situation with China is completely different with the rest of the trading partners. With the rest of the trading partners, the European Union, the UK, Mexico, Canada, all of those countries, negotiations can be very fast and very quick. The negotiations with China are much more challenging because, according to the Trump administration, China has been using the enormous surplus of dollars that they receive from exporting to the United States to undermine the US economy, the US financial system, and the US monetary place. Therefore, it is a much more complex. It's not a negotiation only based on unfair trade practices, but it's also based on monetary, legal, investor security, and trade tactics. It's an incredible opportunity to export to the United States, and for the United States it's impossible. What has happened in the past 2 decades is a constant increase in barriers and limits to US companies around the world.
Is there going to be a digital currency reserve? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because I think if you look at stats, just basic stats over the last 10 years of how widespread this adoption is, it's wild. You even look at how much it's detracted from FX desks because your exotic currencies or currencies which notoriously have no liquidity when dealing with US dollar, they're just moving to USDT. And I think that there is something to be said about the ease of this. There is something to be said about the transparency of this. And there's something to be said about the fact that everyone, I think has accepted, whether they're an adopter or not. That in my experience, I've been working in this field for 18 years now, and I just see a level of dynamicism here that I have never seen before. And I think that this region really is going to capture a large commercial market share. I mean, even look at the way it is now. There's huge players here, and there's lots of people, either setting up shop here or even relocating here. And I think that speaks for itself amongst the business community. And I think that, there are other attributes of this region, like tax favorable jurisdictions, so you don't see those crunches for expertise because people want to move here and you can attract people to live here. So I think that that's the real value add. I think that when they've been forced over the last 15, 20 years to attract a population to what was quite literally just in most places desert, and create such a humming hub, I think this place is a place to watch. And I think for this industry, they are so vehemently aware of the opportunity here, and I think how swiftly they're moving is going to really put some pressure on legacy financial hubs for sure. Our value add is certainly the fact that we've operated in regulated regimes before, so we have a real solid foundation to build off. I think the difficulty is with some of these newer entrants who are huge. You can't take it away from them. They haven't got the tenure, and I think they haven't got the rapport with regulators. So building that when you're talking about an asset class which is fairly highly scrupulated, and unfortunately some regulators use some of the use cases that we've seen historically to sully the nature of this product. We've already got an understanding of the way to operate, in basically, all main markets and all emerging markets worldwide. So I think that the players that have dealt with this before and understand the way to navigate regulated markets and, interact with regulators really have the upper hand here. I certainly think that you'll see Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Saudi as the main financial hubs for sure. I do think that you will see a filtration, if you will, of the players in the market, because I think there are realistically some people that won't survive if this product comes out regulated worldwide and there's some sort of uniformity between regulators on the way in which they regulate it. I think that you will see a real push towards an application or a compliance framework which is really fixated on risk. So I think you'll see the amount of assets we see listed, significantly deplete, because there will be an expectation that the due diligence done around it and the attributes it has to have in order to be listed on a regulated exchange are going to become a lot more restrictive. But I do think that we will go cashless. I do think that you will see a mass of wealth in this industry, which is dwarfs what we are now. And I absolutely think that legacy financial markets will be in a different place in 10 years because they will see a huge subtraction of their market share. I think Europe is super slow in this. Eastern Europe is doing the best job out of anyone, but as regimes that are seldom spoken about historically, they're virtually treated as offshore. I think that Trump and the US, look, they're always going to be in the news. They're always going to, and at least at the moment, going to be the penultimate country and that everyone watches. But I do think the US is being too slow, and I think that the worldview on Trump and the US in the future is kind of reducing that anchored confidence that we've seen historically. I think that it is phenomenal for the world that you see, the US adopt, and you see big statements being made about future adoption and kind of solidifying the fact that the industry won't be relegated and there will be some sort of future in which this becomes, legal tender. And I think that that's a really confidence building thing, but I think that just the optics around Trump and the optics around US at the moment means that people are looking at the other regions to watch. We need not go into tariffs and stuff, but I think it's really affected the way that everyone sees the US as the leader.
Hi, I'm Buzz, Web3 and AI founder. Bitcoin soared past 90K this week for the first time since March, and it's starting to act more like gold than ever. Gold broke its all-time highs in price per ounce, and Bitcoin's starting to mirror it as a store of value and less like a risky tech bet. This price action comes after months of bullish news prompted by Trump's pro-crypto vibe, including GameStop adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet, USDC's Circle filing for IPO, and Michael Saylor's strategy buying Bitcoin en masse, now owning nearly 2.75% of all coins. The new SEC chair, Paul Atkins, was also sworn in this week, and he's a crypto advocate, with expectations that he's going to ease regulations and bring more cryptocurrency innovation to America. And remember, the purchase details on the United States Bitcoin Strategic Reserve are still to be announced. As a DeFi founder, This is exactly what we've been waiting for. But macro volatility is still a threat. Bitcoin and gold are redefining wealth in really uncertain times. But if you're sidelined, study the Bitcoin white paper and don't miss this financial shift. This is Buzz, and this is your 69 seconds within 69 minutes.
We have another amazing sneak peek of our series Debate Club. In one corner, Major General Dr. Asthana, India's counter-terror strategist. In the other, Abdullah Khan, Pakistan's top security analyst. Borders closed, diplomats expelled, and tensions at a boiling point. Catch it all on Debate Club Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. ET, only on X.
Nuclear flashpoint or manageable feud. Is this escalation pushing India and Pakistan towards a broader nuclear threat? Or is this just a spat between neighbors? Sir, you're first.
See, the actions which India is going to take and the responses which Pakistan will do is going to set the escalation dynamics in place. Let me tell you that I don't visualize neither a war nor a nuclear war at all, because I don't think the nuclear war is an option for anybody, whether India or Pakistan. As far as the escalation is concerned, while India doesn't want war, but it is prepared for one. If Pakistan imposes war on us, we have no problems. We will handle that as well. So from that perspective, I think India is prepared, and all actions which India is going to take will take that into account, that even if the escalation leads to a conventional war, we have no issues. And we will be able to handle that as well. So that's as far as the escalation is concerned. As far as the one point which Mr. Khan made, all the terrorists are in jail. If you choose to pick terrorists and unanimously name them as leaders in Kashmir, that is not our problem. You can live in that dream for whatever time is comfortable to you. That is our response to that. Now coming on to the actions, there would be many actions. We will certainly ensure that people who are suffering, whether they are in POK, some help is given to them in some manner. The people who are suffering, they get some kind of justice. At the end of the day, POK is of India, and the people there are Indian people. We have certain vacancies in our parliament as well as in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly for those people. And like it or not, they at some point of time will seek, they all want to leave Pakistan and join the Kashmir as it was earlier. So that's one part of it. Secondly, a mention was made of plebiscite. Let me tell you, if you see that UNSC resolution, Pakistan was supposed to vacate the entire POK. That was the step number 1 of that resolution. Now that has never been done, and therefore hereafter it's not that doesn't stand anymore, and that gets superseded by Simla agreement, which also they have held in abeyance as of now. So I must say that if they abrogate it, it is to our advantage, and we would like to see them abrogating that so that it becomes slightly easier for us to manage the entire Kashmir, which includes POK and Gilgit-Baltistan. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Khan?
There is very much possibility that this conflict leads to nuclear confrontation, because when you start war, it is not in your control to end it at your own terms. Both the countries are actually nuclear powered, and India is gradually mounting the escalation level and gradually pushing towards a proper military confrontation with Pakistan, just like the zonal infantry threatened to come to want the peace from, their ports to be taken. All these things, and trying to abrogate. Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Yes. If you want to We can hear you.
So that is also an act of war if you walk away from Indus water treaty. So all the things are leading towards a war between two nuclear powers. So the possibility is very much there, and I think that is where international community needs to step in. And I think they should hold India responsible and accountable for escalating this. And there should be, at the very start, what I said, there should be independent international investigation to what happened actually in Paragon. And if India is involved in fast flag operation, then India must be held accountable. That is very serious thing, because you conduct an attack and then finding an excuse, you are escalating the situation in South Asia and putting at risk the almost 2 billion people, because the whole population of South Asia will be at risk. If there is, God forbid, there is a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. So wars cannot be ruled out in such a tense situation. This is the first time happening that India revoked or held in abeyance in this water treaty, and the first time there are so many wars between India and Pakistan, and this is the first time that India recalled military advisors from Pakistan, and so the Pakistan will do the same. So what it is leading? I earlier said that there any miscalculation can happen between two countries. If God forbid India conducts a missile test, and Pakistan thinks the missile is coming to Pakistan, and Pakistan is following no. Pakistan had this strategy of using nuclear weapons first, because Pakistan is not in comparison with the Indian military economic might of Pakistan. Mostly its deterrence is the nuclear power. And so India also has the nuclear weapons. So I think that the situation is very serious. I don't know why the generals downplaying it.
Thank you, sir. Major General, your final response.
Yeah. Firstly, let me tell you that India did not start any war at all since independence, but India won all the wars, and it will continue to remain the same. That's number one. Number two, as far as we have calculated in our responses, that Pakistan is going to do two things. One is go and cry to the international community, and three, say that I have got a gun on my head, that is my nuclear bomb, that I will explode the nuclear bomb. We are ready for both. We have more nuclear bombs than you. We have much better capabilities than Pakistan in all domains of warfare. So let's have no doubts on that. But we don't want to do any of these things, neither the war nor the nuclear war. But at the same time, a message has to be given to Pakistan military. I suggest Pakistani people as well as thinkers like him must now learn to control their military, not to get involved in terrorism and buy problems for their country.
Milei achieves absentia trials. Argentine Congress passed President Milei's bill enabling absentia trials for Iranians implicated in the 1992 Israeli embassy and 1994 Jewish center bombings, which killed 114 people. The trials are set to begin in mid-2025, targeting figures like Ayatollah Khamenei and Ahmad Bahidi, accused of orchestrating the attacks. Milei's move overcomes decades of obstruction, notably under former Peronist President Cristina Kirchner, who signed a controversial 2013 pact with Iran itself, allegedly shielding perpetrators. The 2015 death of federal prosecutor Alberto Nisman, who exposed this cover-up, underscored the obstruction. President Milei's administration declassified intelligence and condemned the pact as treason, aligning Argentina with global efforts to confront Iran's terrorism and deliver long overdue justice and accountability. This is Argentina's Milei News, and that's your 69 seconds for 69 minutes.
Lindy Li isn't staying silent. She's sitting down with Eric Bolling to reveal what she calls the biggest political cover-up of the Biden years. She says Joe Biden wasn't leading. Kamala Harris, well, she was MIA. And for much of the presidency, Jill Biden was quietly running the show. Li says this wasn't a temporary power shift. It was a coordinated effort to mask a presidency in decline. A first lady stepping in, while the media, well, they look the other way. And for millions of Americans, that's a truth too big to ignore.
We had this discussion at least once that I called you a Trojan horse because I'm not sure you're truly conservative or not. So let's just do this now. As of right now, I'm going to go through a series of ideas, and you tell me where you are on those ideas, and then I'll ask you when you came to this conclusion. Immigration.
I could even make it easier for you. I am far right.
Do you believe Trump is right deporting all illegals? Certainly the ones who are criminal illegals, but all illegals.
Absolutely. Eric, I'm so far right on most issues. I'm probably more far right than I'm so far right on issues like immigration and so.
Were you always there, Lindy?
I am so far right. It's the one, I have one issue that is very dear to my heart. And that's the environment. And that's what kept me as a Democrat for more than a decade. I care deeply about the environment.
What do you think of Trump now? What do you think of MAGA now?
I'm very, very happy to see what he's doing on immigration. Very, very happy. I'm glad that Doge is going out there and just basically slashing and burning. This is what we need, because I'm a fiscal conservative. Again, as I mentioned, I'm conservative on everything except the environment. The environment is such a huge issue for me. I even wrote my college thesis on it. I'm very happy that he has the guts to do what he's doing. I'm a little queasy about equity markets only because I'm a huge investor, but hopefully, this is the reindustrializing that we need. Maybe this is the short-term gain that we need for the long-term gain. I'm willing to give him a chance on that.
As someone who holds one of the MAGA torches, I welcome you. I'm going to be conservative and say, I hope you're being honest with us, because we would like to have people like you who've seen the Democrat Party for what it is.
Eric, do you realize that I would be such a huge weapon for you guys? I know exactly where the bodies are buried, and I'm revealing all of that in the coming months. People will be shocked to hear what happened.
Can I ask you this, since you mentioned that? So you were there during a lot of the Biden presidency and an advisor and high level. How come you didn't say anything that, when we were all saying he's demented, he's putting the country at risk? Why didn't people like you, who were, if you're telling me you're honest that you were deep down conservative, but you were in a cult, why couldn't you just let someone know that the man is declining?
I did, and I got exiled last year.
What was the real relationship between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? What was it like behind the scenes?
It was like a shotgun marriage after she ascended to the top of the ticket, but now they absolutely hate each other. Most of the hating is done by Jill Biden, Lady McBiden.
Was she?
She hates Harris with a passion.
Lady Macbeth. Was she the effective president, Jill Biden, for the last maybe year?
Absolutely. That's something else that I leaked. She was the power behind the throne. She was the throne. I brought up the Biden age issue. I'll give you a name, Ken Martin. He's now the chair of the party. I brought up this issue 2 to 3 years ago. I said Biden is too old. I said it as a question because I didn't want to offend him, or, you can't speak up against Biden in that cult. But I said, don't you find this a little bit problematic? Don't you think maybe he is in cognitive decline? This is about 3 years ago. And I remember Wendell Pierce from The Wire, that guy, that guy, he was sitting right next to me. And my brother was there, and he said it, he answered me in front of them. He made me feel stupid. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing.
So that period after Trump, basically exposed Joe Biden as having lost, his facilities, exposed his cognitive decline in Biden. That period where they're trying to figure out what to do. How influential, how much input did Barack Obama have in the process?
Much.
And did he pick Kamala Harris? Because there are reports that saying he didn't want her.
No, he didn't at all. I actually was part of the effort to remove Biden. That's, because he just wouldn't go. And
how are you part of the effort?
Stop the money.
How do you?
I'm sorry.
So the powers that be, I assume the Obamas, maybe some of the Clintons were involved, and they just, or is it Clooney? Is it the celebrity class? How did they get your award? How did they get to you to say, help us convince Joe to
No, they
leave.
didn't need to ask me. It was my duty as an American.
But my question is, who was
Trust me,
pushing
this
it?
is not something I needed to be inspired to do. I was freaking out. Like, there's no way this guy should be running the country, A, B, running for president. And I had been saying it prior. I told you like 2 or 3 years ago, I'd brought it up to party chieftains and they treated me like I was stupid. And so I didn't need any motivating at all to speak up. I had been speaking out. And yeah, I mean, since mid 2024, I've been banned from the Biden White House. I left everything behind, to tell the truth. So if you think that's not enough, I don't know what to tell you.
Listen, I'm not judging. I'm verifying. Trust but verify, as Ronald.
Yes,
Ronald
and again,
Reagan said.
I'm not asking any. I don't want a job in the administration. I don't want anything from anybody. So, frankly,
Well,
there's nothing for me to gain here. So
we'll continue the conversation, Lindy. We'll look for the book and we'll bring you back again. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you for having me.
And welcome to the right side. And I use that in all senses of the word right.
From Hollywood to the heartland, Dean Cain is calling out the chaos, woke culture, weak leadership, and a media machine more interested in spin than truth. This Superman, well, he's standing with Israel, standing for law enforcement, and standing against the nonsense infecting California and beyond. They'll call him controversial, they already do. He calls it common sense. This isn't about stunts or sound bites. It's about values, courage, and speaking truth when it's easier to stay silent. This is Dean Cain, unfiltered, uncancelled, unafraid. And this is just the beginning.
I write all the time and I love it. It's a great way to express yourself. But when you step out in front of that screen, everybody will criticize you. You're too tall, you're too short, your hair is too long, your boobs are too big, your boobs too small, your butt's too big, you talk funny, your accent sucks. That's what it is. There's a joke in Hollywood, how many actors does it take to play a role? The answer, of course, is 100. 1 to do it, and then 99 to say, I could have done a better job. True. True.
I love that. I love that. Talking politics, do you get blowback from people in your industry because of your political views, or are people just used to them by now?
Well, I think it's a combination of people being used to it, and also most people in Hollywood are cowards. How do you say, F you in Hollywood? Trust me. And that's true, because they're cowards. They won't say it to your face. We don't want him because we think he's conservative, or he's pro-law enforcement, or he's pro-Israel, or whatever it happens to be. They won't say that very often. I would respect them if they did, because then I could tell them, kind of how I feel about them. But I mean, and I can respect that. I used to really want to be liked by everybody, and that was a thing. And maybe it was the advent of the internet, or maybe it was going on a network show for 4 years and being scrutinized for everything. When I first got Superman, it was, we wanted Superman, not Sushi Man. I got that. Now, I didn't make a thing of it because I thought it was ridiculous. In fact, my brother and I laughed for hours. We'll laugh at it now because it's hysterical, because it's so ridiculous. Yeah. But the internet's full of people who are bomb throwers, who love to come at you and cut you down for anything. And look, I just know that I'm super blessed to be on this earth, to have the wonderful family. My son, who's in the other room. It's different when they're 24, by the way. They're quiet. They do things for you. My son is 24. I'll be like, Christopher, can you carry that up for me? And he's just like, Rrr. And I'm like, yes. All those years of having to chase you around, and so it comes full circle. It does.
California, you used to be a citizen there. They've had some awful issues.
Yep.
Awful. And
Terrible.
I think you're one of the first people to come out very publicly, the first celebrities, and absolutely annihilate them for immense failings. Why did you decide to speak so publicly about what was going on there, and particularly off the back of fires, etc.?
Well, first of all, at a certain point in time in your life, as a parent, as a human being on this earth, you get to a place where you're like, and I say this often, it's like, people may not have any interest in politics, but I promise you, politics is interested in you.
It's going to affect everything you do, from your property taxes to your sales tax, to the car you drive, to how you water your lawn or don't water your lawn. So all of that stuff affects you. And I started to see what I thought was craziness, because you're not eating it every day. You're not aware of it. You're doing things and you're like, wait a minute, this seems weird. Why am I having to go through all these regulations to water my yard in my backyard? I had a big backyard in Malibu. Why is this such a why did my water bill cost more than most people's mortgages? And you start looking into the things, and as a parent, it's different. So you go, oh, my kid's going to be the next generation. They're going to have to live with this. Why are we doing this? And so I just found, I'm a Princeton grad. I grew up in Malibu, California, very liberal bastion, but I was an athlete and I worked hard. And so I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be here and do this. And then as I became a parent, I just had to speak my mind because things seemed crazy. There's another saying, it's like the only thing that is necessary for evil to succeed is for good men or women to stand around and do nothing. And so I felt obligated to start speaking up. And it wasn't popular, and it still isn't popular for a lot. I'll say something about, if you had kidnapped my son and taken him across the border to Gaza, I'm coming in like Rambo. And they're like, you're the worst Superman ever. Like, where's the, that's kind of a non sequitur, but yeah, okay.
Hey, it's Joe Pags Pagliarulo, radio television talk show host at Joe Talk Show here on X. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the left wants us to believe he was a Maryland man, Maryland father, here legally. He had asylum. Some say he had a green card, was not a member of a gang. His wife loves him. His family wants him back. He's just a constituent of Van Hollen, and he was snatched up, kidnapped by Donald Trump himself, and sent illegally to El Salvador. Now the truth that's verifiable and above reproach. Was a member of MS-13 as adjudicated by 2 immigration judges in 2 separate court proceedings because they believed an undercover informant who said he was in MS-13. He actually applied for asylum, was denied asylum, doesn't have a green card, is not here legally, and is not some Maryland man. He's an El Salvador man. So he was sent back by Trump and this administration, and yes, they made a mistake because he had a withholding removal order because there was some danger about some 18th Street gang in El Salvador, which, by the way, doesn't exist anymore. So there was a withholding order, but what they did was they sent him anyway. So one piece of paper quashed that order. He is where he belongs. He's a citizen of El Salvador. That's the truth.
Is Spain really booming or just being sold a headline? Santiago Abascal says it's the latter. Leader of Vox, president of Patriots for Europe. He's watched illegal immigration surge across the Canary Islands, while the government calls it under control. He's seen unemployment hit record highs, while Sanchez says it's all going swimmingly. Abascal's watched the opposition fold while pretending to fight, so he's calling it out. The corruption, the media silence, the quiet shift towards China, even the prosecution he now faces for alleged foreign financing. He says it's not justice, it's sabotage. This isn't just political survival, it's a battle for Spain's sovereignty. And for Abascal, this fight isn't optional, it's a call to country he cannot ignore.
Hay varios casos de supuesta corrupción que han ido saliendo del Partido Socialista Obrero Español y se han relacionado directamente con Pedro Sánchez. ¿Cuál diríais que es la implicación real del presidente del Gobierno de España en estos supuestos casos de corrupción?
Bueno, nosotros pensamos que la implicación real del presidente del Gobierno de España es una implicación total. Es una implicación total porque estos casos que están siendo investigados en estos momentos en los tribunales afectan tanto a su mujer, que ha obtenido tratos de favor con supuestas llamadas para ello del propio presidente del gobierno, del hermano del presidente del gobierno también y de su número 2, que en estos momentos está también siendo investigado en los tribunales. Es decir, son casos de corrupción que afectan al círculo más estrecho, al círculo más íntimo, al círculo más personal del presidente del gobierno y que habrían hecho en cualquier lugar probablemente la dimisión anticipada del presidente del gobierno. Sin embargo, esto en España probablemente se va a desenvolver de otra manera. El presidente del gobierno necesita el poder para defenderse de las acusaciones de corrupción y, por lo tanto, estas investigaciones, en lugar de alejarle del poder, probablemente le están acercando al poder y le están acercando a la toma de decisiones cada vez más peligrosas. Hace falta controlar nuestras fronteras con nuevas leyes que den instrumentos jurídicos a quienes tienen que defender las fronteras, a nuestros guardias civiles, a nuestros policías e incluso a nuestro ejército. Y hace falta lanzar el mensaje al mundo de que quien entra ilegalmente en nuestro país tiene que abandonar nuestro país y que nunca será regularizado y nunca podrá acceder a ningún tipo de ayuda pública. Si ese mensaje llegase con nitidez a los lugares de procedencia de las personas que llegan en masa a España y si ese mensaje llegase con nitidez a las mafias del tráfico de seres humanos, el flujo se detendría o el flujo sería mucho menor, no tengo ninguna duda, pero eso no se ha ensayado. En estos momentos todos los mensajes que se lanzan a quienes tienen interés en venir a Europa son mensajes totalmente nocivos. El mensaje es de que aquí se puede entrar ilegalmente, permanecer en el país y además beneficiarse de las ayudas públicas, de la asistencia sanitaria, incluso de beneficios o de privilegios a los que no acceden los españoles. Hay hoteles de lujo con piscinas llenos de inmigrantes ilegales en estos momentos, mientras que hay jóvenes españoles que tienen que abandonar nuestro país para ir a buscarse un futuro mejor en otras partes del mundo. Es algo que no tiene ningún sentido, pero esa es la política actual y la política actual se va a mantener mientras no se cambie el gobierno y mientras no estemos dispuestos a reconocer el problema y enfrentarlo de una manera radical. Hoy el gobierno de España se sostiene no solo con el apoyo de fuerzas separatistas y de fuerzas comunistas, sino con el apoyo de fuerzas de naturaleza terrorista, es decir, de partidos políticos que han sido el brazo político de una organización criminal y asesina. La situación ha llegado a unos límites increíbles. El problema es que el Estado ya no puede entregar más poder a las regiones, ya no tiene capacidad de vaciarse más. España ve como la soberanía nacional y el poder del Estado ha venido siendo atacado por arriba, por parte del globalismo y del federalismo europeo, y por abajo, por parte de las regiones. Con lo cual, el poder del Estado ha quedado absolutamente desdibujado. La cohesión nacional ha ido desapareciendo, y ha ido desapareciendo como consecuencia de las políticas de populares y de socialistas. En España hoy hay una alternativa, que es Vox, que es una apuesta patriótica, en defensa de la nación, en defensa de la unidad de esa nación contra cualquier tipo de separatismo y en defensa de una sociedad civil libre y que pueda prosperar frente a los avatares económicos, frente al ataque socialista a la prosperidad y también frente al ataque del globalismo a través de múltiples vías y que está siendo protagonizado en España tanto por esa derecha cobarde como por los socialistas. Bueno, yo creo que hay que entender una cosa muy importante y es que la organización terrorista de carácter separatista que ha atacado a mi familia sistemáticamente y que ha causado en España prácticamente 1000 muertos y miles de heridos, pues es una organización terrorista, separatista y socialista, con lo cual hay cierta identidad entre ellos. No han podido evitar, a pesar incluso de haber sido víctimas en algún momento, tener cierta idea romántica de ese terrorismo. Eso le ha pasado a la izquierda en todo el mundo y la izquierda española no es una excepción. ¿Cómo lo veo yo? Lo veo como una gigantesca traición, lo veo como una indecencia, pero no es sorprendente. Hay que tener en cuenta que al frente del gobierno de España hoy hay un personaje sin escrúpulos, sin ningún tipo de límite moral. Hay veces que los periodistas preguntan, entonces este personaje que gobierna España es muy listo, porque se mantiene en el poder en mitad de todas las dificultades, de todas las crisis. No es una cuestión de inteligencia, es una cuestión de falta de escrúpulos. Él tiene una ventaja competitiva sobre los demás, porque está dispuesto a hacer cosas que los demás jamás haríamos. Si los demás aspirásemos al poder a cualquier precio, pues probablemente también tendríamos la posibilidad de competir en ese río revuelto, pero no estamos dispuestos. Muchos estamos dispuestos a acceder al poder con el apoyo de la gente que tiene determinadas convicciones, y solo de esa manera.
When war crimes become negotiation points, Boris Johnson says the West has lost the plot. Ukraine is still fighting for survival, but the talk in Washington, sanctions rollbacks, security discussions, and maybe, just maybe, letting Putin keep what he's stolen. Johnson says enough. The former UK PM says no deals, no delays. He wants secondary sanctions, real pressure, a hard line. And the only leader he believes might actually do it, Donald Trump. Not to appease, but to end it, he says, on Ukraine's terms. Because if we bend here, what message does that send the next tyrant?
What I want to do is take you back to a moment, and I want to understand your reaction in real time to the now very infamous Oval Office moment between Zelensky, President Trump, J.D. Vance was there as well. When did you first see that, and what was the first word that came to your mind?
I think it was a massive cock-up. And I think that neither side really intended that meeting to go as badly as it did. And it was a great shame because the Ukrainians had moved mountains. I mean, literally, they were going to move mountains. The United States was going to have a massive minerals deal. The rare earths deal was going to be done. There was going to be a love-in signing ceremony at the White House. And I just looked, for one reason or another, everybody got on everybody else's nerves, and it was a snafu. I really don't think that either J.D. Vance or the president wanted it to go off like that, and certainly the Ukrainians didn't want it to go off like that. That doesn't mean that it can't be rescued. I think it can be rescued, and we need to make sure that happens. And things are difficult right now, but I don't see a solution for Ukraine that doesn't give the Ukrainians what they fundamentally need, and that is a security guarantee of some kind. So, we're talking now about, you'll have read it all, Erin, you'll have seen that everybody's talking about recognition of Crimea by recognition of Russian possession of Crimea by America, the Putin being allowed to keep some of his territorial gains, a lot of his territorial gains, Ukraine accepting that they won't join NATO, that kind of thing. These are very, very bitter pills to swallow for the Ukrainian people. This is an appalling reward for aggression by Vladimir Putin to say that we have to recognize his occupation of Crimea. I mean, come on, for Ukraine not even to be able to say at the end of that, after 3 years of heroic fighting, that they've got a security guarantee from NATO is terrible. But then not even to be able to say they got a security guarantee from the United States and the rest of the West, that's terrible. And, it's not clear what Ukraine is really getting out of this conversation, this negotiation at the moment. It kind of feels like all the concessions are being made to the wrong guy. All the concessions are being made to Putin. I just can't see that working. And what people continually underestimate in all this, Eric, is the fact that the Ukrainians are going to win. Nobody seems to understand this. It's their country. They're not going to let Putin get away with it. And anybody who thinks that they can just be sold down the river and will accept the mutilation of their constitution, the loss of their territory, for nothing in exchange, for no long-term Western security guarantees, no long-term prospect for Ukraine to be integrated into the West. They've got another thing coming, believe me. It's just not going to happen like that. We really need to put ourselves in those Ukrainians' shoes and stop thinking about bloody Vladimir Putin and what we need to do to appease his crazy psychology and what we need to do to give him an off-ramp. He doesn't need an off-ramp. He's in an incredibly weak position. He's losing a lot of people. His economy is going downhill. What we need to do, quite frankly, is we need to be backing Lindsey Graham, the U.S. senator, distinguished U.S. senator, who's leading a bill in the Senate now. He got 57 signatories, so it's going to go through in the Senate, to have secondary sanctions on the Russians if they fail to accept peace, if they fail to deliver a ceasefire. Secondary sanctions would be absolutely devastating, because that means you sanction everybody who's buying Russian oil. You don't just sanction the Russians, you sanction the Indians, the Europeans, everybody. And this is really painful stuff. And that would really hurt. That would hit Putin. That would make a difference. And that is frankly what the US now needs to do. But as well as that, the Europeans, my own beloved country, the UK government, the Australian government, as well need to get behind that secondary sanction package, because that's the thing that will really put the hard word on Putin. It's only when he feels that serious economic pressure, as well as the current military pressure, that he's going to change that. At the moment, he feels that with the current mood in the White House, the exasperation with Zelensky that you've seen, and you rightly began this conversation, which he feels he can just keep pushing, keep asking, and he's not going to get it. And so, the sooner there's a rebalancing, the sooner people start putting some pressure on Putin, sooner people recognize that Ukraine's long-term future is with the West, the quicker we'll get peace. We'll stop the death. My hope has always been with Trump, and maybe I've been deluding myself, but my hope has always been that he is the guy who's finally got the balls to stand up to Putin.
Time for my take. And didn't X enjoy this little tidbit over the past week? And to be fair, it doesn't get much better than this level of blatant hypocrisy and, to be frank, genuine stupidity. Democratic darlings. AOC and Bernie Sanders have been caught red-handed boarding a private jet, wait for it, to visit towns on their Fight Oligarchy tour.
We are here together because an extreme concentration of power, greed, and corruption is taking over our country like never before. Oligarchy.
You couldn't make this up if you tried. And even if you did, no one would believe you. But here we are. The dynamic duo who seem to have moved past their obsession with climate change and even managed to move beyond fighting for terrorist sympathisers and gang members to now be fully committed to bringing down the greatest threat to human existence. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is rich people. You know, people like Elon Musk, who the Dems are trying to destroy. Except in reality, in the real world, he's done more for humanity and its survival than almost anyone else. But that doesn't matter, according to AOC, as she explained so eloquently recently.
Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money.
I mean, thanks, Scoop. I'd love to meet a billionaire without lots of money. But look, that aside, one of his ventures is about to restore sight to the blind, let alone his achievements in the fields of space, AI, environmental preservation, communication, freedom of speech. Oh, and just saving the American economy billions of dollars by exposing fraud and waste. No, God forbid any of them would waste a second discussing or giving credit for any of that. He is the enemy, right? So whilst Tweedledee and Tweedledum travel by carbon-producing, money-costing, elitist-loving private jets to call on working-class Americans to unite and fight individuals who have worked hard and been successful, let's all hope passionately that they continue to expose so blatantly themselves, their hypocrisy and their ignorance for at least 3.5 more years, to ensure they never get within a country mile of the White House, let alone a position of power within it. That's it for 69X Minutes, presented by Mario Nafal. I'm Erin Molan. Thanks so much for joining us. No spin, no censorship, just the truth, as we know you like it. See you next time.